Let's go. We got another one for you guys here. So welcome again to week 3 of the fantasy football. We got next segment podcast. We're happy to be here again. As always, with the homie Hayes, aka O'Shifty. Appreciate you guys as always, just tuning in, listening to us, and just vibing with us. We're gonna dive right into things. Last week, congrats if you end up listening to some of the picks. A good amount of them turned out good for you guys. This week we have a lot of things. So if you guys had players in the Steelers-Browns game, I know that last play of the game did affect things. It affected things for me. I had Najee Harris on one of my teams, and I was going against the Cleveland Browns in another one. So you go like an 8-point swing. That does affect a lot of points because they were going from having 2 points to 10 points. That affects you. Najee Harris with the fumble, that impacts a lot too. But the Browns ended up taking home the win, and that one 29-17. We'll go into this week's game picks, and I'll also dive definitely in depth, as always, into all things fantasy football. So the first one is the Texans and the Bears. I think in this one, we'll end up checking it out, but I have the Texans in this one. Steven has the Bears in this one. The people you need to end up paying attention to within this game, of course, always David Montgomery. David Montgomery does have 32 carries, 148 yards, but Mills is not having a bad season. So if you guys do have Davis Mills, it wouldn't be a bad decision to pick him up. I think you can end up seeing decent fantasy points out of him, especially when we get to it. We will talk about Justin Herbert not necessarily playing this week. He is questionable. So just stay tuned with that. But Texans, Bears, I also would say pay attention to Damian Pierce, pay attention to Brandon Cooks. That's another one you guys should end up looking out for. And Brandon Cooks does have 11 receptions, 136 yards. So just look at those different numbers. I think that's something that might be on some of your radars. The over-under in this game is 39 points. I don't necessarily see it hitting the over on that one, so I would take the under on it. Chicago has the money line right now at 2.5 points, but those are the main ones. Justin Fields, I wouldn't trust. Darnell Mooney or Cole Kmet, I'm not trusting yet, but we'll see how this game ends up going. Good luck if you guys have anybody in it. I have Brandon Cooks. I'm always going to throw Brandon Cooks out there. It seems like they want a little bit with Damian Pierce, so I can see him rocking with the ball as well. Raiders, Titans. Derrick Henry still throwing out there. Regardless of what happens, you're still throwing Derrick Henry out there. I have the Raiders in this one. You're still throw out Derek Carr. I would still put out there Darren Waller. You're also putting out there Devonte Adams. Devonte Adams does have a good line so far. If we can end up looking at some of the stats that Devonte Adams does have for the 2022 season, he does have 22 receptions for 153 yards. It's not the best styling. I know you would expect more, especially with how he's done so far. The targets, he does have 24 targets. So that's kind of something that's been big. I'm hoping Hunter Renfrow can recover from last week because that was something else. Of course, I told you before, go with the rookies. So Treylon Burks, you're throwing out there. I'm not starting Ryan Tannehill. Chiefs and Colts. In this one, I have the Chiefs. You're putting out there Patrick Mahomes. Of course, you're throwing out the Jonathan Taylor if you have him. He was the number 1 pick. Travis Kelce, I have, so I'm throwing him out there as well. If Michael Pittman is playing, you're throwing Michael Pittman out. That's probably the only two, Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman. For the Chiefs, you're putting out there Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. If you have the Chiefs defense, I don't think it's a bad start to put out the Chiefs defense in this one too. They have had some good games. The over-under is 50.5 points. So if you're thinking the Chiefs are going to score 40 and maybe the Colts can come out with 10, then okay, there's your money line on that one. But I got the Chiefs in that one. Bills, Dolphins. I got the Bills, as always. You know how I've been doing throughout this whole year. Bills, 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 Bills. I'm not putting out Tua Tagovailoa in this game. I would start Josh Allen. You are starting Stephon Diggs. You might be able to sneak in there a running back from the Bills, just pay attention to who's been getting most of the carries when it comes to the Bills. Like, they're getting the running in the end of the game. During the beginning of the game, Josh Allen's been throwing it a lot. Gabe Davis is playing. You're starting Gabe Davis. If Dawson Knox is playing, I would throw out Dawson Knox. I know Dawson Knox is going to have a good game this year. The big thing is, when is that big game going to happen? Again, I said you're not starting Tua Tagovailoa. You are throwing out there Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I think one of them will go off for like an 80 to 100-yard game. I don't think they're both doing it like they did last week, because the Bills defense is much better than the Ravens defense. Lions, Vikings, throwing everybody out there. Just throw them all, because the defenses are not that great for both of them. So you can get away with starting Kirk Cousins. I put out there Jared Goff, DeAndre Swift. You are putting out there Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're putting out there Justin Jefferson. You're putting out there Dalvin Cook. You're throwing out there as well. You're throwing them all out there, and you should do pretty good with that one. The over-under is 52.5. I can see that in that game. Just looking over the picks, I have the Vikings. Steven has the Lions in that one. That's a toss-up. It's a good NFC North game, so I'm looking forward to end up seeing it. I like to see who ends up scoring. You're going to look for the target share. Justin Jefferson will get a lot of targets. If you saw the amount of times Kirk Cousins threw it, he's going to throw it a lot again this game. So the Vikings I got in that one. Justin Jefferson, of course, you're throwing out there. He should at least go off for, I would say, 6 receptions, 100 yards, and probably a touchdown somewhere in there. Ravens, Patriots, you know who I always rock with every single day, Mr. Moneybags, because he's finally going to get his money soon. I know I was talking to some people today, and he's going to get his money. But that's the big thing with that. But the Ravens I have in this one, you're throwing out Lamar Jackson. You're going to throw it. If J.K. Dobbins is back, you might be able to put him out there. I don't know if they're ready to bring him back yet. Rashad Bateman has been having a good year. 6 receptions, 167 yards, touchdowns. You can put out there Damian Harris. It's looking like Damian Harris is the running back that they're going with. Ramondre Stevenson. You can put him out there for another week, but it's almost like that trial week to feel as if they're going to go with him or not. That's really it. The Patriots, I'm not necessarily trusting a lot of the receivers yet. Jacoby Myers, maybe if you're in a PPR, because he'll get the receptions. Bengals and Jets in this one, again, you're throwing out all your players. I have the Jets. Steven has the Bengals in this one, but put out Joe Burrow for another week. Jamar Chase, you're going with. Jamar Chase is going to have a good game soon. Joe Mixon, you're putting out there. T. Higgins, you're putting out there. Hayden Hurst, I'm throwing out there. Someone's going to get that target share, and you don't want them sitting on your bench, just like a lot of people had David Njoku on their bench. You don't want it to be you having those players on your bench. So I'm rocking with them in this game. I would also say Joe Flacco, you can put out there. Joe Flacco is having a solid year. He's completed 63 passes. He has 616 yards, 5 touchdowns. Those are good numbers for him to be putting up. You know, you're throwing out Garrett Wilson. If you have Garrett Wilson in this game, you're putting out Garrett Wilson. Next game, Eagles Commanders, you know it's Eagles. You're putting out Jalen Hurts. You're putting out Miles Sanders. You're throwing out there AJ Brown as well. Those are the 3 I would probably go with for the Commanders. Only I probably say Curtis Samuel or Jahan Dotson. I know that they're probably going to have a lot of players watching Terry McLaurin just to take him out the game. You're going to have a linebacker and probably a corner that's going to be looking at Curtis Samuel. Running backs are probably going to be shut down, so I don't see Antonio Gibson having as much work. You could see maybe 50 to 80 yards out of him, a catch or 2, if that. But the rest of that is going to be done. But I can see Jahan Dotson or Curtis Samuel going off. It just depends which wide receiver. The Eagles won't shut down all 3 receivers. They'll shut down one of them in the game. And the next one is AJ Brown, I mentioned that. But Saints, Panthers, I don't trust the receivers for the Panthers. Let me start with saying that. I have the Saints in this one. Steven has the Saints in this one. But I don't trust the receivers because of Baker Mayfield. Only ones I'm putting out there are Christian McCaffrey, and then on the other side, rookie wide receivers. I say this all the time. Rookie wide receivers. Jarvis Landry has 11 receptions, so you might be able to roll him out there. And then Michael Thomas. Those are going to be the ones that you're going to have. This next game, it's crazy because the tickets are selling for as low as $20. And that's because nobody wants to go to this game because of who the Chargers are playing and because of the person that might not be playing. Justin Herbert is questionable. They sat him out of practice, so we really don't know. So if you can find players on the waiver wire, I would probably say look for somebody late so you can end up holding off instead of throwing somebody out there early. But if you do have an early quarterback you want to go with, you can do that. Like different ones that you might be able to find. Jameis Winston is one. Carson Wentz probably is out there on some of them. You might be able to get away with Joe Flacco. Another one, Jared Goff is definitely out there if you want to pick him up. And Derek Carr is probably out there too. So, and Davis Mills. So you do have a couple of options. Just look at the matchup that you have for it. I personally picked up Marcus Mariota in one of my leagues because I do have Justin Herbert in one, and in another I have like Aaron Rodgers or someone. So I'll probably end up just like holding Aaron Rodgers on the bench. I'll hold Marcus Mariota. I'll put in the game. I will be holding Aaron Rodgers, and I probably will be putting Justin Herbert on the bench, if anything, in those games, and then looking for just another 1 week flyer, if anything like that. But I have the Chargers in this one. If he does or does not play, I'm still starting Mike Williams. I'm starting Austin Eckler. Those will be the focal points. James Robinson, you probably can get away with. I don't necessarily trust Christian Kirk. And I say that because this Chargers secondary is pretty good, and they're going to either shut down Evan Ingram or Christian Kirk. So just be mindful of that when you do try and roll them out in that game. Rams Cardinals. This is another good game because the offense can go either way. We both have the Rams in this one, but Kyler Murray, look for him to go with James Conner if James Conner does play in the game. Rushing wise, for the other team, for the Rams, Darrell Henderson, he's looking like he's sharing time with Cam Akers. One game was Cam Akers, one game was Darrell Henderson. So this will be the game for you guys to be able to tell. Matthew Stafford, throw him out. Just know he's going to get interceptions. If he's out there, Cooper Kupp, of course. It's been electric this year, 24 receptions, 236 yards, 3 touchdowns. And we're really just waiting for DeAndre Hopkins to come back. So this is going to be week 3. So we got 3 more. After this one, you're just waiting. That's kind of how it's going to go. Once DeAndre Hopkins comes back, you know the automatic receiver you're going to go with in that one. Falcons Seahawks, this is another toss-up one, but as I did mention, you're rolling out Marcus Mariota. If you have him, if you have Cordell Patterson, you're rolling out Cordell Patterson. I had the Falcons in this one. Steven has Falcons in this one. It's a toss-up. It really can go either way. I'm throwing out Drake London as well. I told you those rookie wide receivers are the ones I'm always betting money on. I don't really have anybody on the Seahawks that I would necessarily roll out there. If anything in this game, you might be able to go with one of the running backs, Rashad Penny or so, for the Seahawks. Packers and Bucks. If this was a year ago, this would be a great game to watch. But because of the injuries, the receivers that have left, it's not the same. The quarterbacks you're excited to look at and see how they play because this is one of those final times that you're going to see them. I'm not starting either quarterback this game. Aaron Rodgers still trying to figure out his weapons. On the other side, Mike Evans out, Chris Godwin out, Leo Jones questionable, probably out as well. So you're going to be having just second and third string receivers that are going to be playing for you. Leonard Fournette should get a lot of work in this game. AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones should get a lot of work in this game. They're going to have to focus on the running backs because those are going to be the pass catching options over there. 49ers and Broncos. So I know I mentioned earlier that there was another person I was picking up. If I had Justin Herbert on the team, it's Russell Wilson. I'm going to trust it this game that Russell Wilson will do it. He has a decent matchup in this. I know the line goes towards San Francisco. I'm going to trust Russell Wilson. They are 1-1. The 49ers are 1-1. Courtland Sutton, and I do have a couple of sources out there, but Courtland Sutton has been the player that Russell Wilson has been having a connection with. Courtland Sutton has 11 receptions for 194 yards. Russell Wilson's going to have to get it together. He can't just be this game manager. I was talking to Steven about it. He's being a game manager right now. He's not really being a playmaker. So if you have George Kittle, you can roll George Kittle. Of course, Deebo Samuels, you're rolling out. Jeff Wilson, you can roll out. Jimmy G is the quarterback over there. I thought the Broncos defense was going to be a little bit better than they are. So I am a little bit surprised at that. But I'm rolling with all the players in that game. You should be fine with them. They won't get you amazing numbers, but they should give you pretty good numbers in that one. Cowboys, Giants, Saquon seems to be back. I was talking with someone today who's a Giants fan. Saquon does seem like he is back. 39 carries, 236 yards, and a touchdown so far. On the other side, you got Noah Brown, who has 10 receptions, 159 yards, and 1 touchdown for the Cowboys. I don't know what they're doing with Kadarius Toney, so I don't know how this is going to really go. Daniel Jones needs to kind of get it together a little bit more because he only has 364 yards. That, just doing an eyeball test and just the stats that I've looked at, it's not the best. He's not necessarily putting up that many yards. So that's really it. If I had to choose in this game, which y'all come here to see who I end up picking, I chose the Cowboys. I'm going to go with Cooper Rush a little bit more than Daniel Jones. I think CeeDee Lamb might have a good game. As we mentioned, Noah Brown. Pay attention to Ezekiel Elliott. One of them are going to have to go off in this game. But that's mainly it. I try to make these short, quick, and to the point so you guys can get everything that you need. Good luck for everyone out there that has another week in fantasy. I know some people might have bye weeks in their fantasy league if you have an odd number of teams potentially out there. But I do think that you guys should look for backup options for Justin Herbert. Just be on the safe side about this. Make sure to start looking at those rookie wide receivers. Make sure to look up those players that might be suspended or might have the injuries for like 4 to 5 weeks. Put them on your bench so that you guys are ready for when the season does start for them. And we'll be good to go. This is the final week, the final full week of September football. Then we're going to be getting into October. I will be at the Commanders-Eagles game this week. Next week, I'll be at the Bills-Ravens game. Hype. I'm excited to get to some of these games before it gets too cold, because gone to some of those colder games, it's not really the move. Gone to college football games in the cold, them shits are freezing. I've gone to a Giants-Commanders game before on Thanksgiving, freezing. So I like to enjoy this warm weather. It might rain at that game, but a little rain don't hurt nobody. It's better than the cold weather. But that's it. We got over here for you guys. We appreciate you as always listening to us. If you watch us, shout out to the Solana Monkey Rejects. I'll catch you guys next week. Good luck. Drop comments below, like, subscribe, and hit us up if you ever have any questions. With that, as always, we out.